I think the medication thing is always so interesting because I think the research is pretty clear that it can play a role and it can help. But the scenario you described, without any insight, without any talk therapy, without any education, just the magic pills, that doesn't seem to go too well. So it's not surprising that you're saying you were sort of just taking pills for 8 years and not seeing a lot of relief because there was none of that supportive work that would support your progress. It's just take the pill and wow, and it can help, but it doesn't stand alone. It doesn't stand alone.
100%, and it can be great in combinations. It's not you don't just take medication, just sit in and wait for things to happen. And I'll sit here and say, like, I am not against medication whatsoever. I'm not. There's a lot of people that benefit from it. There's a lot of people that doesn't. And that's the way it is. There's a lot of people that benefit from meditation and yoga and giving up alcohol, and some people just don't. That's the way it is. That's the way it's always going to be.
Well, and if you want to change your body, you wouldn't just take a vitamin, right? Like you have to take a vitamin and work out, change your diet, the behavioral changes, things like that, right? It's like, no, just take a Flintstone vitamin and you'll feel better. Like, nah, it doesn't really work.
Yeah. I'm not going to go to the gym, but like I want to lose weight.
Yeah, magic pill.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm thinking about that. So you're 18 years old. You have a getaway with your girlfriend, right? You come back. Did she come back with you? Like, did she fly back?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was good, supportive, and I'm just wondering. So now you're coming back to a new reality. Like, hey, this is part of my existence now. I know I have this vulnerability. I've got this pill. So how did life change in the immediate, knowing you were capable of these panic attacks now?
Like many people, just overnight, just complete wipeout. I was in college actually trying to be a paramedic and fireman, and I was excelling in that. Just about to complete the first year. I had a little part-time job, and then obviously the relationship that I had, within a week it was all gone. No relationship, gave up the part-time job, literally ran out of work with a panic attack and never came back. Didn't even call them. Just never went back to them. Went into college one day and I had the BA, the apparatus on for the fire training. And, a lot of time I'd get asked to be team leader, where you like complete. They put like black tape over your mask, and it's like you're in a basically practicing for being in black smoke. And you're the start and people are holding on to you, and there's tables in front of you and you're trying to crawl under them, you're making sure there's no little holes. I used to do that and I used to ace it. And the second I put that on, I was like, get this off me now. Everything went off. Everyone in the class was like, didn't know what was wrong. The people, obviously the adults, the teachers there knew exactly, like, especially the firemen who were training us, like, I was having a panic attack. And I explained to them, this is what happened. I'm having these panic episodes since I came back last week from my, being to my doctor. He says I'm having panic attacks, and he brought me into this little room and he said, like, they were almost better than the doctor that I went to. And they said, listen, he says, you take as much time off as you need. This course is always here for you. You can take a year out if you want. You can come in any day you want. And they were great. Then there was a 45 commute to college. And that just got tougher and tougher and tougher. And then the one thing that keeps people in the disorder start to kick in: avoidance. I stopped playing football. I stopped working out. Anything that got my heart rate up, I was terrified. So a complete shift and change in my life, and I just became very housebound. Even with my mom going to work, I was like, "Mom, please don't go to work today." I said, I'm having intrusive thoughts that, well, I didn't even use the word intrusive. I didn't even know what intrusive thought was. I said, Mom, I'm having these thoughts that like, what if I can't handle a panic attack and you come home and I'm dead on the floor? My mom says, panic attacks ain't going to do anything like that, can't trust me. It was just awful. Like, yeah, completely life-changing. And that was for 10 years, It was obviously wasn't as bad for 10 years. It settles down a little bit. But the funny thing, the crazy part is like how something abnormal starts to just become so normal in your life. And that's the killer. Like, I went 10 years unemployed. I never got a job again for 10 years. 10 years, on benefits over in Ireland. Every time I tried to get a job, I wouldn't last longer than a week. I'd run out and just never come back. And then I just, you have this, people with panic attacks and agoraphobia and these types of disorders, they have a mentality of, I'll do it when I get better. It's like, you gotta get better in order to do it. You got to push yourself. You got to be very proactive in these disorders, very, very proactive. But that's just a little bit, if you want to touch in, that's just a start of it. I mean, there's plenty more, but if you want to have a little say on that, like jump in anywhere you want, yeah.
No, it's interesting. One, I appreciate your honesty and candor. I think one thing that we have to acknowledge with this is some of the gender roles that pop up in this, right? Like you're a fireman, you're training to be a fireman, you're an athlete, you're the oldest son, the oldest overall. There's a lot of pressure to be tough and gut it out and just deal with it. You know what I mean? Put your head down and just get through it. And I had all that working in my background when I kind of went through this as well. And I think it's hard for people to understand that when you're in the midst of an actual panic attack or the heightened state of physiology that will lead to a panic attack, there is no gutting it out. There is no just sucking it up. And I'm sure you had these thoughts where you wanted nothing more than to just outwork it or just think through it or just push through it. And it's not even a capability during that time. I mean, it's not even one of the things that are at your disposal. I mean, when you can't breathe, and your hands feel like there's electric shocks going down and your breaths are, and your chest is so tight. I shared with you before, like I used to have this compulsive habit of checking my pulse just to prove to myself that it was, blood was still going through my body. That's what level of functioning you're dealing with. So to get to this place and to be able to share that openly, because I'm sure at that time there was some shame and some embarrassment and some, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just figure this out? So I don't know. I mean, we'll talk about your other progress, but I think just getting to the place where you can share so openly, I think is going to be so helpful to people to hear that, Before we go on, I want to say a few words about Anew Behavioral Health. Anew Behavioral Health is an outpatient provider of mental health and substance abuse services in Ohio and New Hampshire. That means that Anew can successfully treat mental health and substance abuse issues or dual diagnosis if you're struggling with both. Their integrated approach allows for them to successfully address issues related to anxiety, depression, addiction, trauma, and really anything that stands between your life and the life you could be living. You really cannot bring them an issue that they have not successfully treated. They have also solved one of the biggest problems for people seeking help. They have a dedicated team waiting to hear from you at helpnow@anewbh.com. If you contact them today, within 24 hours, you will have heard back from, wait for this, a real live person, and will also have your first appointment scheduled at that time. So how do you contact them? Well, if you're in Ohio or New Hampshire, you're probably close to one of their local locations. You're welcome to go in. If not, you can always reach them online at anewbh.com. And if you're interested in services for you or loved one, use that address, helpnow@anewbh.com. And then the other thing I think about is the way you're describing it is almost like a prison sentence, Like, hey, I went in at 18, I got out at 28, life kept changing for people and moving around me, and I'm not working. I'm not keeping up with the changes in the world. I'm not developing my own life. And so, unlike prison where you have sort of like the day you go in and the day you go out, I wonder about your progress. Did you have good times? Did you have times where you were functional, or was this 10 years on the bench and it only got worse during that 10 years? Like, what was the progression like?
Yeah, the progression is going to be interesting to speak about. I think that's a perfect way to take the next step in this conversation. So, you have my first stage as well, like, what's wrong with me? Like, I need to figure this out. So I went to the library every day. Anxiety book. Keep taking my antidepressant pills, keep going to general therapy, all this type of stuff. I just became obsessed with it. I have to eat healthy now. I have to eat this. I have to eat that. I can't have that. Can't have that sugar. There must be something wrong with my body. It's my mind. It's something. And yeah, it got worse. And then that's when I gave up football. I remember being at training one day and just having these heart palpitations. I was like, there's something wrong with my heart. And then I actually had a manager whose son died of cardiac arrest on a football field from a heart condition, which I didn't have a heart condition. I had anxiety and panic. So it was completely different. And this man was so kind. He was like, so he had connections to the cardiologist because they're who looked after his son. And he took me in I should have been waiting for a year to get to see the cardiologist. Less than a week. He brought me in his car, brought me into the cardiologist that he knew. And here I was at age 18, running on a treadmill like I'm in one of those 50 Cent videos with all the things hooked up to me. And after that, then literally within the hour, full bill of health, he's by a cardiologist, like specialist, 30, 40 years being trained on the heart, says, Glenn, your heart is absolutely fine. You're 100% able to go back playing football. I couldn't even accept that.
Yeah.
Because that night I had a panic attack. Yeah. Must have missed something. Because I thought that would reassure me that, okay, well, there's nothing wrong with me, so I'll stop having panic attacks. There's nothing to being reassured about my heart. There was a trauma there. There was something that conditioned me to act like this for many years without me knowing, that I repressed, and it's all coming out now. It's not going to take one little treadmill journey by a cardiologist to tell me, okay, everything's cool. It wasn't going to work like that for me. I had a journey to go on, and off I was on the journey. So then, I did get back playing football, but not so soon. So age 18, 19, 20, and 21 are actually quite hectic for me with going out with friends and drinking alcohol. No drugs involved. Luckily enough, my mom always, because I actually come from with my uncles and aunties, stuff like that. My auntie passed away from drug addiction. My uncle passed away from drug addiction. So my mom very sheltered us from that and always made us know. So very lucky that it didn't go down the road of drugs. But alcohol, alcohol was one for me where it took the edge off. But the next morning, oh my God, it was like a truck hit me, and it was just awful. So from ages probably 18 to 21, probably, I don't think I spent one weekend indoors, like watching a movie with family or getting a takeaway or something. Every weekend for 3 years, I'd be out drinking, and in Ireland, that's so common. There was literally nothing wrong with that. No one questioned it. I didn't question it because everyone else around me done it. That is what happens. And you're living in Ireland. That's it. I wasn't a problem drinker. Wasn't even close to being an alcoholic. I was just a young kid enjoying some nights out. But I did feel the alcohol was like, at the start, like, it was masking the anxiety.
Of course.
But anyway, as time went on, I remember being 24 at the time, just touching 23, 24, and I gave up alcohol. Still to this day, I'm 33 next month, so I'll be 9 years alcohol free without even a drop of drink. And that's still the biggest blessing. The biggest blessing. Like, of all that 10 years of, I can only describe as torture, really. Best decision of my life. So that was brilliant. That's a great thing that came from it, along many other things that we'll get into. But I remember then getting back playing football, and I remember saying to my manager, I said, listen, I struggle in cars. I can't get to away matches. My manager will always put me in the front seat with him, have me play me meditation, and it'd be just me and him in the car, maybe one or two other lads, depending, people who knew me and stuff like that. And I was, for a full year, I missed 2 football matches. And that was because the journey was a journey. It was an away match around 40 minutes away, and my mum wasn't at home that day, so I avoided going. Just because my mum wasn't home, she wasn't coming to the match. She wasn't, none of that.
But you didn't know where she was. Couldn't keep an eye on her. She wasn't cared for. Yeah.
So I didn't go to the match that day, and I'd missed 2 matches that week, that year, and that was the best year of my life with anxiety. So I thought I was recovered. I didn't have much agoraphobia. If you asked me to go on a plane, hell no. But, I was at least getting in cars and buses and stuff like that. And then after that, I remember getting to a really good point, and I had a really great football season that time, and I got picked up by a very highly talented football team. And, they scouted me and brought me up Sheriff, they're called, and they were absolutely excellent. And I went training for them and played some matches and was banging in goals. And it came to the first match of the season, and I never showed up. Just didn't show up. And I remember after that was just a downward spiral. I just went into myself. I couldn't believe I was 5 years deep into this. All my friends were moving to Australia. Had partners, some were having kids, and it kind of just hit me like, geez, I'm 25 now and I have nothing. And I just sunk deeper and deeper and deeper. My little brother got a job. My sister got a job. And here I am, the oldest, and I don't have a job. I'm feeling so demasculated. My brother's in college. My sister's working. All this is happening. And now they're starting to like have some drinks and going out the weekend. And I'm at home watching, an old black and white movie and Murder, She Wrote in Colombo with my mom on a Saturday night, so it was that right there, so yeah. And then back then I was like, 23, 24 and, tried to go on dates with girls and that just ain't going to work out. Can we meet in this restaurant? I'm like, I heard that restaurant isn't actually nice. There's actually a nice one out my way. It's basically a McDonald's and it's a shithole, but like, it's close to home. So, I heard this is good. So a lot of that manipulation in a way that's like, obviously from not a narcissistic point of view, or it was a protection
survival.
A survival mechanism, yeah. So a lot of that.